Hi guys, Eddie here from Dilleen Property. Today I want to do a real quick video, and today I am once again answering some questions and giving you some answers on some questions you guys have commented below some of the other YouTube videos. So I'll jump right into it, and basically today we've got a question and it basically says, Eddie, do you renovate the properties before leasing them out? So once, I think the question was, after you buy a property, do you then renovate it before you lease it out? That was the question. So it's a very open-ended question, I guess. Usually, no. Usually I buy properties personally that most of the time they've actually already got tenants in there. So sometimes it depends on the property purchase. If it needs a slight renovation to get a tenant in, then I'll do it. But personally, up to over 20 odd properties now in my portfolio, and I'm 28 years old, I wouldn't spend unnecessary money on renovations if a property doesn't need it right away. So what I mean by that is, if a property is vacant as an example, and I buy it, and let's say it's below market value, it's in a good growth area, and I pick it up with a good cash flow, good yield as an example, so it ticks all the three boxes. And if it didn't need renovation right away, then absolutely, I'm not going to go and spend $3 to $5 grand on it if it doesn't really need it to be done. Now that's where I guess it really comes into emotional side of property investing, right? Because some people, they'll go in properties and they'll be like, this, it needs new carpet, it needs to be totally repainted throughout, the kitchen's about 10, 15 years old, I'll probably have to do that as well. And if they buy a vacant property, sometimes just people go out there and they just spend, let's say $20,000 on a renovation, or 10 grand or 30 grand, right? Before they rent it out. To me, that's super silly. I would not do that if it doesn't need to be done. So like a 10, 15-year-old kitchen, if it's fine, if it's in working order, and if you speak to a property manager and say, hey, can this be rented out as it is, as long as it's not falling apart, if it's still good quality, then you don't need to go above and beyond and put the best quality style fittings in there. Property investing is about creating wealth, and I believe is about creating wealth, helping others and helping you reach your financial goals. So you've got more money coming in as an example, so then you can spend more time with your family, so you can do whatever you want to do, right? It's up to you what you want to but property investing is about creating options, I believe. And that only comes with multiple properties. Most property investors out there, guys, I hate to say it, but most of them get stuck at 3 properties, 2 properties even. There's an Australian statistic, less than 1% of all property investors out there get 6 or more. So I'm in that 1% club, in the even higher kind of club with over 20 properties, especially being at a very young age of 28. But you learn a lot of things along the way. As you can imagine, I've learned a lot of stuff along the way, but I wouldn't spend money unnecessary if it doesn't need to be renovated. Now, the next question, I can imagine if someone's behind the scenes is asking, well, can't you actually make the property's value go up if you renovate it? And the answer to that is sometimes. It depends, basically. There's never a yes or no answer. A lot of rookie property investors out there, basically, they go off and renovate and try to create more equity. And now, guys, this can be done. And I've done a couple of renovations before in the past. Would I do it again? Not really, depending on the circumstances. But when you do a renovation as an example, if you're buying a property and renovating it and hoping it's going to be worth more, it depends on, for one, what type of valuation are you going to get on the property. And if you haven't watched some other videos, I highly recommend taking the time, watching as many of them as you can, because mindset will start to shift and you'll learn more and more about what I'm talking about. But as an example, let's say you buy a property, you spend 10 grand on it for the sake of spending 10 grand on it to make it look nicer. You might get an extra $20 a week rent, which in the grand scheme of things, it's $1,000 a year. It's not really a big deal, right? But for me personally, I would take that money and put it into more deposits. Instead of spending 10 grand, I would take that 10 grand and put it into, scrape another 10 or 15, 20 grand together and buy a property with 30K deposit or 25K deposit. So especially if you've got less than 6 properties or less than 10 properties, I would definitely be focused more on expanding my portfolio rather than trying to renovate one and have a fancy looking sexy house. Because even if you get $10, $20 a week rent in the beginning, if you don't have $2 million in cash sitting in the bank, then you've got, I guess, you're not working with a lot of capital. Even if you've only got 150K in the bank, like you got to use what capital you've got to leverage your portfolio safely, fundamentally, with the good cash flow, the cash flows itself, and also the growth and buying under market value. But if you're putting all this extra money into fixing things, like, yes, things need to be fixed with rental properties. I'm not here to say they don't need to be fixed, but if you're doing renovations for no point, then I would ask yourself the question, is it actually going to get me to my next property quicker? Because with the valuations, going back to the valuations as an example, when let's say you buy a property and then you spend $10,000 on a renovation. In that scenario, you bought a 400K property, you spent $10,000 on renovating, and you hope that spending 10 grand will increase the property's value by 40,000. So your net profit is 30,000. You've got to look at the comparable sales, guys. You've got to look at, you can't just go off and, if I spend 10 grand, it's probably going to make it be worth 40,000 more. You've actually got to physically look at what other properties are selling for around the area, and also look on things like RP data. You've got to speak with a mortgage broker as well, and actually order different valuations. Now, guys, there's generally 4 different types of bank valuations. There's a full valuation. If you're doing a renovation, they're going to do a full valuation. And you actually want them to do a full valuation because they're going to actually be able to see the quality of inside the property and all the different extra measures you've gone to actually try to increase the value. There's also the other types of valuations, such as the desktop valuation. So you've got full valuation, desktop valuation, drive-by valuation. You've got an electronic valuation or an automated valuation report. So you've got basically 4 different types of valuations. Now, depending on what you want your property valued at, that's where you need to speak with a professional. You need to speak with someone who's done this many, many times before. Whether you use a buyer's agent or a buyer's advocate, or have a strategy meeting with someone. Occasionally I'm booked out for quite some time, but I'll sit down with people and actually give them a feedback, give my input of what I would physically do if I was in their position, and they can ask me all those questions. But ask other people out there that have actually been in your position before and have 6, 10, 15, 20 properties. If you want to get to where they've gone, you've got to get advice from people who have actually done what you want to do. So with the valuations in mind, there's 1,000 different variables. Sometimes if you do that renovation as an example, it'll be a full valuation, which check out some other videos, guys, because generally the full valuation is the most conservative. So I've done renovations like this as an example, right? I've spent tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, on trying to do renovations and all that kind of stuff, and then realized to get equity out, to get my property valued higher, I actually didn't need to do a renovation at all. I just needed to actually look at the comparable sales and realize I could get it valued even higher without doing the renovation. So I hope this video helps. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Any questions, please comment below, and I'll look forward to chatting to you soon. See you guys, bye.